Hello, good afternoon, everyone. How you doing? All right. Well, welcome to the male voiceover panel, talking about all things video games and animation. I'll go ahead and pass the mic off here to our first fantastic guest for this panel, Joshua. Seth, please introduce yourself, my friend.
I think you just did.
Oh, talk about yourself.
And I'm New Zealand!
What have you done? Tell me about yourself, buddy.
Alrighty then. Should we start with that? With a recap of who we are on this earth? I was born a poor black child. And, blind on the journey. Yes. Should we sit down or are we going to stand the whole time?
That's up to you. I'm standing in for. We got a lot of people back there.
Alright. Well, first thing you need to know about me is I'm from America. It's a little country far, far away from here. And see, I grew up in a small town in the Midwest, in the middle of the country, and there wasn't a whole lot to do. The interwebs back then, there were no video games, literally no video games. We barely had electricity. and I think as a result, I became really good at entertaining myself. And that's kind of how people say, how do you start doing voiceovers? It was me sitting in the back of the car, annoying my little brothers. You know, just doing, just making annoying sounds all the time. Fast forward a few years, I did 8 shows a week for 10 years, from the time I was 8 to 18, in musical theater. Not a lot of people know that, but it's true. Where I lived, all the Broadway touring shows would come through, and there was a 500-seat legit theater there, and they wouldn't tour with the kids because of child labor laws. Yes. And so they would hire me on to do these shows. So I did a lot of the singing and dancing and stuff in the touring Broadway productions, and became much more versatile in my use of my instrument, in my voice, and being able to project it and being able to take on different characters. So I went from just going to being able to sing and inhabit characters from within the voice as a result of like 1,000 stage shows. Fast forward a few more years, I went to a performing arts college in New York City called Tisch School of the Arts, and I had a radio show there, WNYU, New York City. And I had a reel when I came out. It was late at night too, so also I would pretend that people would be calling in to request songs and such. But it was me. It was that, hello, I'm an old lady and I'd like to hear this song from the youth. And I would just be me, but I was screwing around, but I had a really good tape. I had a really good reel when I graduated film, TV, radio school, which is what it was. So I sent it off to Hollywood and got an agent, went out there, and started doing this sort of thing professionally. Voiceovers was my day job, because what I always wanted to do was tour around and do my psychological illusion show, which I did last night at the Opera House. Anybody see that show? Woo! Yes. Yeah, you were there, because I gave you a ticket. Did you like it? You were really, see, I do it for the fan. I do it for the applaud. But the thing about live stage shows, if you're going to create your own work, I mean really any creative endeavor, you're never really very good at it when you start. I mean, we are not Mozart. So it takes hundreds of hours of, in my case, stage time, and thinking about it, and doing it, and reviewing it, and just kind of getting up there and refining that creative process to be any good. And in the meantime, people were handing me things to read that somebody else had written, and say, here, go read this. And one of those was a hit TV show called Digimon. And I play Ty, the leader of the Digimon. Agumon Digivolve. And because I was able to do that, it opened the door for dozens and dozens and dozens of other cartoon series, and movies, and so forth, so that became my day job. And then, after a while, there was a lot of voice work during the day, and a lot of stage shows at night and on the weekends. And I had to make a choice, for love or for money, and I went with the passion, the whole reason that I went to LA in the first place. Hold on, America's calling. Go away. I'm with people. And then I left LA, and I just went on tour, and I've been on tour for the last several years, and I love it. I get to go around and kind of create my own experience in terms of the creative endeavor. The thing that was always lacking for me as a voice actor was they're not my words on the page, they're somebody else's. All I'm doing up is I'm showing up as an empty vessel and a kind of breathing life into something else that somebody else created. You guys are probably going to ask us a bunch of questions about these things, and we're going to give you a bunch of BS answers because we don't really know. We're not the writer, we're not the creator, we're not the director, we're not the artist. We're a guy that was on a mic for 2 hours saying something that was handed to us, and to me creatively that was lacking. So I went out and I started creating my own making my own creative product. And I'll turn over the mic in a moment, but like that's where it led me. That's why I'm not in Hollywood. That's why I don't do the voiceovers anymore, because I felt like as a creative person, it was limiting in that way. And now, like for those of you that saw the show, did a 2-hour live show last night, created an experience, wonderful moment with everybody that turned out to be in that theater. And it will never be repeated, it will never be the same again. It's like a work of art that disappears into the ether the moment we walk back out into the street and emerge from that theater. And that's kind of what my life, what I intended for it to be about. And to some extent, because of the fan base from the voiceovers, that has given me entree into that world of constant touring. So thank you for that.
My name is Matthew Mercer. I'm an actor and voice actor from Los Angeles, California, way over in the faraway land of the United States. I grew up initially, and still am, a hardcore gamer and huge nerd, so that was a very helpful transition for me. But also, very long history in theater, musical theater as well. So that was kind of where the creative, artistic passion went versus the fandom, both kind of parallel, and eventually found a point in my life where I wanted to attempt to combine the two. And so for me it was a lot of hard work, a lot of training, and trying to find more ways to improve yourself both as a performer and as a storyteller. And I think primarily as an actor, we are part of what is the modern day storytelling engine, where when you think of for ancient civilizations and for the way that the human tribal culture has developed for as long as we've existed, there's always been the elders, there's been the chiefs, the people that bring the younger kids around and tell the stories about our the mythology, the heroes, and basically show the next generation how to be a better person. That type of storytelling has been lost.
And we get that from shooting up people in video games.
Maybe not that one so much. But I feel that in films and television and cartoons, that has kind of taken the role now of being that storytelling engine. So the writer, the director, the actor, we're all just parts to a piece of an engine that are what is the delivery system of teaching the next generation how to be a better person. And yeah, the medium can have its darker points, definitely, and some things that kind of don't necessarily fall in that realm, but I think, at least if I have anything to give to this world, it's hopefully to have inspired somebody through a character or a story or a game to try and aspire to be a better person. So, kinda. Sure. Yeah, we'll go with that one. But yeah, so that's kind of my background. Projects have been on Leon Kennedy and Resident Evil, Levi and Attack on Titan, Mikisagi and Kill la Kill. Recently in the new Arkham Knight game, I was Robin, Tim Drake for that one, and a bunch of other stuff you can look on Google that I, for the life of me, can't recall. So that's kind of my quick and dirty backstory there for you. So well, happy to be here. My first time in New Zealand. It's been amazing. You guys have been fantastic, and really appreciate you bringing me out. So thank you.
I should mention other credits, I suppose, as well. I'm Tetsuo in Akira. I was happy to be part of that. Actually, quick story about that. So when I was in film school in New York, there was a little art house theater showing Akira, but like the original version at that time, and there wasn't really such a thing as anime in the United States, or even cartoons for adults. It was all like Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse and stuff. Anyway, I went to see this, and I was blown away by the artistry of it and the beauty of the visuals. And then in terms of the storytelling, just the fact that it was completely inappropriate for children. Like, I'd never seen a cartoon that was made specifically for adults, and I came out like mind blown. This is the future of animation, and I wanted to be involved in that. And then years later, when they sort of did the enhanced version with the new dubbing cast and the orchestration and everything, they asked me to voice the lead. Like, that whole career arc came full circle. So people ask what's my favorite role, it would definitely have to be Tetsuo from Akira, because it had that personal meaning to me. I've also done a lot of video games. If IMDb is to be trusted, I am Legolas in Lord of the Rings. What am I in The Hobbit? I played On My Ox. Who's that guy? I'm Gimli. Yes, I'm Gimli in that. I'm Hige in Wolf's Rain. I'm Cyborg Soldier 9 in Cyborg Soldier 9. Yeah, it was a good series. Also very artistic. Let's see, I'm Elk in Ark the Lad. Anybody play Xenosaga? I'm Chaos in Xenosaga. The new one is about to be recorded. I may be involved in that. Like you said, a bunch of other stuff that if you look it up on IMDb, you will find out.
All right. I appreciate that, bud. All right, so for this next bit of the panel, we're going to open this up to a Q&A, just so we can go ahead and have a little more interaction with the questions you guys have burning in your brains. So I will ask you to raise your hand. We'll call on somebody and just speak up loudly, present your question with a clear voice, and we're happy to answer.
If your question is directed toward Matthew, please raise your hand so he knows that it is for him. If your question is directed toward me, please raise your feet so that I know it is for me.
I would not recommend that course of action. That'll cause many injuries, unless you really want to see that happen. All right, feet and hands it is.
Knock yourselves out!
All right.
Literally!
Yes, what's your question? Have you ever had trouble when we're expected to do any voices? Have we ever been asked if we voice something that's totally not us? Or it's just different here? Okay.
Once I was playing a video game, waiting to go into a movie in the lobby, and I was, I was kind of getting my ass kicked, and I was like, oh, ah, they're making noises, which are the same noises I've made on the video games, and somebody walked by with, are you Joshua Seth? That's weird, and I quickly alerted, said, why would you know that is me? From being like,
one of the positive elements of being a voice actor, I find, is it comes with its level of anonymity. We can work a lot and not have to.
Anonymity means you don't know who it is.
Or so we can work and.
Big word!
It is. But allow us to not have the same issues some actors have where they're immediately recognizable. So for us, it's a little bit of a rarity to be recognized in the public arena. It's happened a couple times, and it's a nice little treat when it does happen, as long as they're very respectful about it and not following you for the next 2 hours from 15 feet away, looking over aisles. Like, then it gets a little weird. But,
unless they're very good looking and they're loud.
Next question, raise your hand and or feet. We have a hand and a foot over there. All right.
That. All right. I would say it is calculated. However, like when I did the hypnosis in the second act of my stage show, I like to get people up on stage that are in costume. So hypnotizing cosplayers that are in costume. It's the weirdest, but also most enjoyable fan interaction because I feel like those people that are putting the effort, like yourself. I signed your neck yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, that's right. There's people that are putting that effort into entering into that world. To that extent, you are more creative than the common person already, which makes you a really good candidate for hypnosis because hypnosis kind of opens up the pathway to that creativity. So I feel like I'm giving you the permission to let your free flag fly fully in a way. And so they're definitely the weirdest moments, even though they're on purpose and they're very enjoyable for me. Of course, for everybody else that can remember them.
I mean, I've had a few unique experiences, and none of them I would say weird in a negative light, but definitely interesting. I had one gentleman a year ago who came up to me at a signing and asked me to sign his forearm. And I was like, oh yeah, sure, I mean, that'll wash off in a day. And then he came back the next day to show me his new tattoo. To which my first reaction was, I was like, I wish you had told me, I would have made it more legible. I was like, well, sure, that's fun. Well, I could have made it a much better looking signature if I knew it was going to be on you permanently. So that happened.
Or you could have signed the name of someone more famous.
That he probably would have appreciated more.
Vin Diesel.
Good question, good question. Next one. Raise your hand and or feet. Oh, we got a hand over there. There you go. Give him good tips.
Repeat the question for the benefit of the viewing audience, wherever you are. What tips would you give a person wishing to become a voice actor? Back to you, man.
When it comes to voiceover, it's 10% voice is 90% acting. I can't emphasize enough the actual formal training that will help you get to that point. You need to learn how to interpret copy. You need to be experienced enough. I recommend stage experience is a really great place to transition there. But being comfortable to take a scene in a script and break down the character, break down the essence of the scene, where you're coming from, where you're going, being able to make really strong emotional choices as the character at the drop of a hat. Cold reading especially. Most of our job in voiceover is cold reading. So all these skill sets.
And you have an advantage there because it's so cold here, all reading is for... No, not that kind of cold reading. He means reading without looking at it ahead of time.
And so cold reading, as you mentioned, is when you're given a script with no preparation time, and you have to go. And that's a lot of the job. You don't get the scripts in advance for most projects, so you kind of have to jump into it. So honestly, formal training as a performer will give you the experience you need, the skill set to be able to step into that facet of this industry and be comfortable and quick to make strong choices and really prove yourself.
I agree with everything that Matthew just said, and I would like to also add reading out loud. I read every single Harry Potter book out loud, doing all the characters, and that's a lot of pages. And I've always enjoyed reading out loud, but you can do this without, going to a class or spending any money. If you could just pick up a magazine, somebody throw me a magazine, or do we even have such things? You must have something with words on it. This is my book. I mean, I'm cheating if I'll tell you about my book in a minute, but this is not be cold reading because I wrote these words. Somebody throw me something. In the theater, they say you can read if you can read the phone book and make it interesting. Then you're a good actor. So I have no idea what I'm reading here. Around the room, all the family and friends were in costume. The guards were equally dashing. Now, I don't know if that's a correct choice for the book, right? Probably not. Sometimes it pays to peruse it, right? A few girls were near you. But just making choices, committing, getting used to reading the words on the page in an entertaining fashion would probably be easier to read the back. Let's see. Charming, captivating, and filled with just the right amount of swoon. The New York Times. So you can do that with any printed material. And if you do it for hours a day, for weeks and months like that. You get really good at just picking up a piece of copy and reading. I mean, that's really, I think, beyond having formal training, which I agree with, in stage time or taking an improv class or doing comedy, I would add to that as well. This is the other thing that is the most important, because he's right. It's not about the voice, it's about what can you communicate through the voice, and in terms of your ability to interpret copy. And copy is anything that is written. So, like with me reading all the Harry Potter books, I did all those voices. Like for me, Severus Snape, I did this one once. And I can still remember it years later. It has nothing to do with the movie or Alan Rickman or anything. It was the voice that was in my head. And then I'd go in and I would, whose is this? Thank you for the donation. I'll read it on the plane. No, I'm kidding. And it's a long, very long. So I remember I went into an audition for the video game of Lemony Snicket's, and the character, as it was drawn and the brief information that was given to me, reminded me of Snape. Now, it was a different accent, it was a different age, and it was in a different, I layered different nuances on it. I wasn't doing the same voice, but because I had read so much of that role in reading the Harry Potter book out loud, I had a hook to hang that character on, right? So it can pay great dividends simply reading out loud. That was a really long answer, but I'm passionate about that being the best way to practice and perfect the ability to breathe life into copy as a voice actor, simply reading the words on a page that's just right in front of you.
And to piggyback on that too, don't be afraid if you don't have a wide variety of character voices. Zany voices and cartoon voices are great. Impressions are fun, but you're not going to be cast as an existing character for the most part. So you want to make sure that you're most comfortable closest to your natural voice. And a lot of times that's what you'll be cast near most of the time. And then once you've gotten to that point, then you can begin to really play with your range and find those very interesting zany characters. But don't be afraid to just get really comfortable with your natural speaking voice and find that one.
I mean, you hit on something that we know about. So he's right, and you mostly be asked to do some variation of your normal voice, a little older, a little younger, a little slower, a little, different physicalities and so forth. I would add to that, therefore, the other most important thing is be an interesting person, because the personality that you're projecting through whatever your natural voice is what you have to offer. You can only communicate what you know, right? And so if you haven't allowed yourself to live a life, and have experiences and put yourself out there and communicate with your fellow man. We were just talking about that in agreement, right? To the extent that you allow yourself to do that, that's what makes you a more interesting person, and that's what will make you able to be more interesting to listen to, right? As a voice actor, but also just as a human being.
That guy. Bearded man. Man with beard. Or woman.
No. Far be it from me to judge. There are 50 genders. Yes. Do we ever feel locked into a role when the role goes on for a very long time? Yeah, no. I mean, they can always recast in Canada, but and it happens. I personally have never felt locked into a role because it's one of many projects that you do. You go around from studio to studio, and it's only one of many things that you're reading throughout the day. So it's just a touchstone that you go back to. So no, it's not like a live action actor where it's the person's face on the screen and they're only doing that role all day, every day, for years on end. Yeah, I can see how that would be a bit limiting as a performer, but as a voice actor, you're doing many roles throughout the course of the day. So really, it's just a part of the skill set that's necessary to be able to come back to it after doing a bunch of different types of vocal portrayals and hit that vocal mark to be that same character again.
when you're doing a bunch of different character voices in a short period of time, it really does help to have them what they call dial you in, where they'll play an older file you've recorded, because otherwise you're like, I don't know where I was on this last time. It's been a week and I've played 17 different personalities. Where are we going?
When I first started out, before the advent of the internet, I used to take index cards with me. And the index cards that started out with a couple dozen and then became like a couple hundred, and I had them in like a little box. And I named my characters, and I put down things that would remind me of those characters. Like, I remember there was one,
Oh, Mr. Snubbly, and Mr. Snubbly, he was a bit, he had like a stuffed up nose like this, and he was a little bit like a Dawes Butler kind of a character, but faster without doing this.
like, that's how, like, I would put Dawes Butler, no cheek, nasal, and I had a thing, I would imagine
He was always putting his eyeglasses on like this.
and I never did that character until right now. But that's what would allow me to, even like in auditions, get back to that, to what that portrayal was, because I imagine, I'm not a visual artist, I can't draw. So I would write down those elements that would remind me of what they were like, and then I'd take notes on the audition and say, well, I did this character, but older and meaner, or something like that, you know, or whatever the variance on that base character was relative to that particular project.
And conversely, as an actor, to go back to the original question you asked, work is good. And so if you're locked into a series that goes on for a long time, that's most of the time a very good thing. Recently was able to announce that I voice Trafalgar Law in One Piece. And One Piece is a series that has gone on for over 500-600 episodes, and the creator just went, oh, we're almost halfway over. So like, I had Funimation be like, don't worry, you'll be doing this guy for a while. And part of me was like, okay, what does that mean? The other part's like, all right, at least I know that'll always be there going forward. So I would say for most performers, especially those who make their sole living as a performer, roles like that are actually a little blessing, because you know you can count on that paycheck down the road.
Yes.
Yeah, so the question is, do we notice trends in modern cartoons and animation, and where would we like them to go? There are, and these trends change and shift through the years. About 4 or 5 years ago, there was a huge boom in more male-oriented action cartoons, like the Young Justices, stuff like that. And then those started to wane as kind of the Adventure Time, I call it the Adventure Time era, came in, where cartoons got a little more zany and weird, and kind of almost how do I put it, a random style of humor that got really popular, and which was popular back when SpongeBob first came about, but even that was a trend that went away for a while. So you'll see these kind of ebbs and flow and what becomes popular and what's not. What I'm enjoying, personally, is a lot of animation, which for a long time has been considered a male-oriented medium. I think it's complete BS. With shows like Legend of Korra that really kind of embrace the fact that, no, this is for everyone, and all ages and all sexes. And I think it's amazing that I'm seeing this too, there's now a trend in animation, and even some of these younger kid-oriented cartoons like Adventure Time, and, like Steven Universe, like those cartoons are starting to break those boundaries between what we consider the norm in modern animation, and character archetypes, and interactions, and even just the family unit. And so I love that trend, and I want to see more of that, because I think that to me is the most progressive cartoon, and what's going to be really ushering the new era of storytelling for animation.
I have a different take on this. I have no idea what the trends are. And this is by choice. And I say this to anybody out there that's a creative person and that wants to make creative output, whether it's to create your own cartoon, or voice something, or write a book. I'll mention this now. This is my new book, Finding Focus in a Busy World, How to Tune Out the Noise and Work Well under Pressure, or Perform Well under Pressure. I wrote this book because there's so much distraction, there's so much content out there. And the thing is, if you're following trends and you want to be a creative person and get your voice out and your vision out, but you're locked into those trends and what's going on in popular culture, then the best you can do is be somehow derivative of or reflective of what's already out there. So what I did was purposefully remove myself from everything that's going on. And I've been able to write 4 stage shows, and 3 books, and actually the Audible and iTunes version of that, of my Finding Focus book, just came out. And it was really very special to me because it was the first time in my entire career that I walked into a recording studio and read my own words in my own voice. And I feel like there's so much distraction, there's so much content out there now, so many video games, so many cartoons, so many movies, so much, even YouTube stuff. I mean, you can spend your whole morning just watching YouTube clips that your friends posted on Facebook. You will never create anything that's honest and true to the essence of who you are if you're, who you are inside, if you're always looking outside at what everybody else is putting out. The more you take in of other people's creative output, the less output you're going to be able to create yourself. So, trends are fine. Consumers are the majority of people, but I'm assuming that some of you out there are creative because some of you are seamstresses and some of you have the impetus to be in a place like that. And if you're a creative person, I suggest give that a try, what I suggest in my book, or I'm telling you right now, of completely removing yourself from what's going on in the popular culture, finding out what's within you, because that's how you break through. That's how you create something that's unique to the person that is you, and not just derivative of everything else that's going on. When we talk about new trends coming out, somebody had to do that. Somebody had to say, I'm not going to create another Adventure Time or male-oriented show or whatever, all those trends that you just mentioned. Somebody had to be completely outside of that world and come in with an original vision and purpose, and that's the thing that then takes hold and moves the entire industry, whatever that creative industry might be. So, for what that's worth, that's my perspective.
Great question. Yes, you had your hand up right there, sir.
Absolutely. Oh man, you're a wise person to even think of that question. Okay, so let me say that question. So how do you quiet your mind to the point where unique, original, creative thoughts come to you? It's not simply enough to turn off the TV, right? Or say, I'm going to go off Facebook for a moment. Yes, there are techniques that allow us to kind of quiet the mind and go internal. I know of this because of my training in hypnosis. One of them, I can just show you right now, it's called Ojo Breathing. And I've always done this before voicing a role in a studio. I do it backstage to prepare myself before going out there. I did a couple of television programs here on like no sleep after I traveled halfway around the world. I went straight into the studio for Paul Henry's TV show, and then straight from that studio to the Good Morning show. And I should have been very jet lagged, and I was instead very energized and very present because I did this technique. So here's this technique called Ujjayi breathing. It's thousands of years old way of centering the mind and body. Which I can do. You breathe in through your nose. Slowly, let's just all do it. Out through your mouth, making a whispered ah like this. That sounds like nothing, but do it for a few minutes. And while you're doing it, be completely focused on that process, breathing in through the nose. Your sternum coming out, and you get very, very centered on the... From a vocal perspective, theatrical perspective, what it's doing is it's centering your voice and bringing it down into your chest instead of in your throat. So if you try to voice stuff from your throat, eventually your voice gives out. You hear politicians get raspy voices like that a lot because they're talking all day long and they're not trained. But when you're voicing something and screaming, "Come on, let's save the world!" all day long, "Wow!" like that, you've got to not let your voice get ripped up, and that's placing it right there in your chest. That's one of the ways you get there is with breath. Another one is meditation. Another one is self-hypnosis. Self-hypnosis is self-hypnosis. I mean, I don't want to pitch my book too hard, but all this stuff's in the book. That's the first chapter, because your mind and body are connected. Before you can create anything of value that you will put out into the world in any respect, you have to honor that value in yourself by going internal and connecting your mind, your body, your emotions, your thoughts, everything in the present moment. Nothing in the outcome, the perceived. I'm going to add one thing to this. Part of the mistake I believe that people make in our modern society is they start to think outcome-oriented. They have goals. We're taught to be goal-oriented. Hey, I'm going to move to Hollywood and I'm going to be a big movie star and I'm going to be on TV. And it's all very goal-oriented and it's very much out of our control. And then that makes people miserable. Can I swear? Miserable SOBs, right? Because they get discouraged and frustrated, and they find no joy in whatever the living in that present moment is, because they put something out there that they want to be or accomplish or achieve. But here's the thing about those goals is once you get them, you have moments, perhaps, if you allow yourself to have it, of satisfaction, and then there's always another goal. You climb to the top of the mountain, another vista reveals itself. There is no there. You never get there. And when I burned out in LA because I was doing all these voiceovers and I was doing all these cartoons and such, and I just had to get out, it was because I was being very competitive, and I was always like, I'm going to get this role, and I'm going to win that role, and I'm going to be on this thing, and I don't want to be the second banana on that show, I want to be the lead in that show, and I want to take over the industry. Like that. There's no joy in that. What I have found is true success is to be able to find creative satisfaction in being present in the moment with the person that's in front of you, with the opportunity that has presented itself to you in that moment. It's called being process-oriented rather than goal-oriented, and that's a big key to what you just said. No matter what endeavor you're in, whether it's a creative field or not, being able to be present in the moment is the whole key. When you can do that, you naturally start to perfect your output, you naturally start to get better at whatever the thing is that you're repeatedly doing in whatever career or field that you're in, because you're no longer striving to attain or be something that you're not. Your whole concern is honoring the moment that is, the person that you are, the person that's in front of you, the relationship that you have, whether it's with the script or the screen or the words on the page or the person in front of you. That's called being process-oriented, and that's really the summation of that question. So thank you for asking.
I would recommend for any creative types on that same realm. Who here is a fan of Neil Gaiman? Gaiman's writing. He's an incredible writer. There's a video you can find on YouTube. It's just type in Neil Gaiman commencement speech. He was speaking at a college, and he has an entire talk about exactly that, and how he reached a point in his career where he finally met Stephen King, and his career was just starting to take off. Stephen King said, enjoy this. Be present for this moment here. Don't constantly be trying to look for the next step. And then he's looking back at that time and realized that he had the impressive time. And it's really wonderful talking about that. So I recommend it. Good note on that one. Yes, you had your hand up. Weirdest or silliest thing that's happened during recording? Oh, man. Plenty of silly bloopers happen from mistakes you make in the booth. Some actors will leave what they call bombs for their actors, where they know somebody else is working on the show. They'll say a line specifically to mess with that actor, and the director will leave it in the track and kind of do like a pre-laid track to prepare you for your line. All of a sudden, the actor's is like, "Hey, your pants are down, man." What happened? And you flub your line because they put you off guard. This is pretty silly. But I've had a. I'm trying to think of. You go ahead, Wellington.
No.
That works out well. Actually, no, for Fire Emblem Awakening, because I did that, Patrick Seitz was the director on that project, and there's a portion of the game where the character Crom has to propose to the player character. It's this long, kind of heartfelt, romantic speech he has to give. And so we get to that part of the script, and I'm looking over the line, and then Patrick Seitz behind the glass goes, "All right, so get this in your heart. I want you to have to memorize and really feel it." Okay, so it's been about 5 minutes waiting to get it. All right, memorize. He goes, "Good. We're going to record. Don't break eye contact." What? He goes, "Don't. I want you to look right at me the whole time." Okay. So start recording. The third beat comes in. "You are the wind in my back and this sort of..." Oh, God. The whole time Patrick's just going... it took a while to get that one line for the project because he's a creepy mofo. I love him.
Oh, okay. Person with the potato. What's going on with that, huh? See, I don't know because I don't watch any of these things. I watch nothing. That's a great question. What kind of research do we do when we're doing a character? When we read the anime, or people have asked have I watched the originals? For me, and that there is no right answer to that. Everybody has to find the process that works for them. But in keeping with everything I've said, I do no research. I don't read the anime or look at the original because I don't want to live in it. And all I am interested in is give me the arc of the story, the particulars about the character, good guy, bad guy, age, anything relevant to that character, and objective in the scene and relationship to the other characters in the scene. Go. That's all I want to know. As stripped down a direction as possible with like those 4 elements, and then the director can always hone what it is that I give as a result. But if I see an image of the character and I get those 4 or 5 bits of information, then whatever I deliver is going to be honest and not derivative of somebody else's vision, and it'll be more unique. And here's the thing, there's a lot of talented people out there, and if everybody is coming at the role with the same information, then they're going to tend to give the same read and interpretation. So that's what I have always attempted to stay away from, by limiting the input. I feel like the more limitations that you are given as a creative person, the more you box yourself in, the better your output will be, because you have to be more inventive in coming up with a way through. A maze is not very interesting if it's like, there's the exit, right? So if I'm given too much information, I know where that exit is, it's the same information as everybody else has, I'm going to give the same read as everybody else. So I just limit the input a lot.
I'm kind of in a similar vein. I'll do research to the extent of understanding the character arc, or at least an idea of what their journey is going to begin to be, what the kind of the theme of their journey is. And the director will supply a lot of that information, hopefully. And a director-actor relationship is a collaboration for most projects. The idea is you, as an actor, only get one facet of the story. And you know that facet very well, and you experience that one facet. The director sees the entire tapestry and has to weave it all together. So there's this trust that the director sees the whole vision, knows how you fit into that, and they know how to guide you through that path. And so, even though you may be giving your all, they understand more and will help kind of direct you on what looks best in that entire presentation.
Actually, that's true to the extent that the less you as the actor come with preconceived notion of what that role and read should be, the more you're able to honor the director's vision. And since the director is the one with the idea of how all the parts click together, that's the vision that you should respect as an actor. So it makes it actually easier to take direction when you haven't exposed yourself to all that information and backstory. My turn. I'm going to call on somebody whose hand is not raised. You better come up with a damn good question. How about that lady smiling right there? Ask me any question about anything and I will give you an answer. Anything at all. You have no question. Sure. How did I get into the industry in the first place? I can trace most of the roles that I got as a voice actor in Hollywood back to relationships. It was all through relationships. So I didn't know anybody when I went down to Hollywood, but luckily I had a really good reel for my radio show in New York, and I went to an agency, and I met other actors at that agency, and those actors said, hey, I'm taking a class with this person. Went to that class with other people. Those people said, hey, I'm going to an audition for this thing, and go to that audition. I met that director, and then that director moved to this other project. you know, it takes me along with him, and then I meet a writer, and then, so everything's spread out with like these interconnected spider webs from original points of contact. And that's why it pays to sort of give value to everybody that you meet in life.
It's a very fair point too. And in this industry, which is heavily based on relationships, you have to try and maintain not only humility, but be appreciative of the people you get a chance to work with.
I'm the best at humility, man!
Because, especially in an industry like this, where a lot of people are vying for the same roles, people want to work with good people. They want to work with people that not only can take direction and can understand the process, but can be easy to work with, collaborative, and not standoffish in their own opinion. That doesn't mean you can't give an opinion. You know, there are sessions where I might feel the director has a choice that I wouldn't agree with, and I'll voice that disagreement, we'll talk it out, and then we'll come to an understanding and then go forward. But in this industry, so much of it is relationship-based, that if you prove that you do good work and that you are reliable, that counts for a lot, and people will continue to work with you and consider you for future projects. Conversely, if you end up, being difficult or not quite at the level where they feel like you can consistently deliver what they require, then they might not bring you back as often, and you kind of have to continue to improve yourself from that point. So it's, like you said, it's a lot of relationships. That's how I got my start. All that eventually led to us being here in New Zealand.
To the point where my house, when I lived in LA, was walking distance from Warner Brothers Animation, and I'd go over there and I voiced stuff. I was also, in America, I was the promo guy for all the cartoons, so I had a way to meet a lot of people on projects I wasn't a member of. Like, I wasn't in Batman, but I was the guy who goes, next, on an all-new Batman on Kids WB.
On an all-new Pokemon!
So I was the announcer for all these shows, and I would meet those writers for those shows would come in, and I'd invite them to my poker game. I had a Thursday night Hollywood home game, and I get to know them on a social level. So they get to know everything that you just said, likability, reliability, consistency. It's assumed at a certain level that everybody's going to be good at what they do, but those interpersonal relationships are, at that point, then what really counts in order to be able to keep working and expand that world of opportunity. And that's how I was able to do it, was through proximity.
All right, let me go ahead and take another question here. Hand is raised, and we have a few more minutes here for a few more questions, so we'll try and keep these a little quick so we can get through a bunch of you guys. You've had your hand up for quite a bit here in the front. The question is, do we go back and play the games that we were a part of, and do we end up favoring the characters that we voiced? I play as many as I can. As a gamer, free time as an adult, a little working adult, is becoming fewer and fewer. Plus, right now I spend a lot of my free time developing my Dungeons & Dragons world. Those who haven't seen it, by the way, I have a show called Critical Role on Geek and Sundry's Twitch every week, where I dungeon master a game of D&D for a bunch of other voice actors. Like Laura Bailey, Travis Willingham, Liam O'Brien, Sam Riegel, a bunch of those guys, and we all roll dice and are nerds every week, so you should check it out. It's fun. And so I spend a lot of my free time building that world and being a huge nerd on my pad, writing out fantasy names and Elven Kingdom shit. But I try and play the games that I would play normally. So the big RPG nut fighting games, those usually come from my system. I wouldn't say I favor the characters, because it's always one of those weird disconnects where if if it is your voice, you're kind of like, oh, it's me. I never quite fully, or at least I haven't fully gotten over that. But if my character's cool, I might like that. If my character's like a really terrible villain and does terrible things, I don't really hate my character like I'm supposed to, so it depends from project to project.
The only games I play are with my kids, like on the floor. But I do enjoy doing all the voices of all the characters with my 4-year-old, with our Batman Legos and stuff like that. But without game systems or anything like that. But it is pretty awesome to be able to have this ability to inhabit, various voices and do it with little kids that don't have a parted brain that knows the difference between fantasy and reality. That's why you play so well. If you ever watch little kids play, 3, 4, 5 years old, there's no dividing line between what is real and what is fantasy. I think that's one of the appeals of gaming, is because it adrenalizes you to a point that you lose sense of time. in space and the reality of the world outside and subsume yourself into that game. But a 4-year-old like my son, he's there from the beginning, from the get-go. That's the fun thing about games to me, so those are the kind that I play. Plus they're free, since I gotta keep feeding them the bastard.
And that's great too. That's part of the reason I enjoy tabletop role-playing games, pen and paper role-playing games, because as opposed to a video game experience where someone's providing a story for you that is semi-rigid, that you're supposed to experience in somebody else's interpretation, for a tabletop role-playing game, it's communal storytelling and improv. You and your friends get together and you create the story. You take it where it wants to go. And there are memories of games and moments and some of those to me that are every bit as real experiences I've had in this life. And many of those people went off and ended up being inspired by those games we played to go and pursue their own creative endeavors. And have written books and created shows and stuff. And there's something to be said about being in that creative space outside of a video game or a visual presentation. Just allowed your imagination to expand like you did when you were a kid in your front yard. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But from what I do as Dungeon Master, a lot of that is still like building the world and structure, and then they get to improvise through it. And that's kind of the fun give and take from the gaming standpoint. But yeah, a lot of it's improvisation, a lot of it's just kind of seeing, reacting to somebody's choices and seeing how the world reacts around it. So anyone who hasn't tried a tabletop role-playing game, and you ever have the opportunity, give it a shot once. You'll be amazed at how much fun it can be.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time yet, so I'll tell you what. I'm going to ask 3 people to ask 3 questions at the same time. And whatever I can hear, I will answer. Stand up. Somebody else. Who else on this side? Who else? Come on! You had your hand up. Okay, and you. All right. And no, we'll save you, because you're in a place that import for you to use a minute. All right, all 3 of you, ask your question. Go! All of you at the same time, go! That didn't work at all! I don't know what they said. You answer first.
Favorite character I've voiced is a difficult question because I like all my characters for different reasons, but I really enjoy Leon Kennedy because I feel me and him have a lot in common as people. You asked, can we sing?
Sing, baby, sing.
They sing now? I do.
Night and day, you are the one. I don't remember the rest of the words.
Where's the girl? Where's the girl with that gaze in her eyes? Where's that girl with that gaze of surprise? So what do we want to recommend that we watch that we feel people should watch? Oh, that we've done that we want to recommend you watch. Fate Zero is an amazing series if you haven't had the opportunity. The upcoming Wabbit cartoon series you should watch. It's the new Bugs Bunny cartoons that are coming out in October that are like in this, I meant that as Bigfoot. And yeah, they created a new character. Bigfoot is hilarious and awesome. It's great. But yeah, it's very much like the classic Bugs Bunny format, the short form, 6 to 10 minute cartoons. They're awesome, so recommend that.
In terms of what I've worked on, I'm always surprised that people have not seen Akira. So I do recommend that you see that. I think it's the highest quality project that I ever voiced. All right, let's end. How about for a last one, right there in the middle, with your little bell on your head, it's quite fetching. Yes. I asked. All right.
What part would you do in Attack on Titan? Oh man. I mean, vocal range, my brain immediately goes to Armin. Otherwise, oh man. Derp Titan. Derpy Titan, definitely. My favorite Titan. You guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Well, Matt, because it's already aptly named. I'm all about typecasting. All right, let's do it.
I voice Fields on.
There you go. There you go. And maybe to wrap up, do you want to tell them how they can find you on the interwebs or anything like that?
If you guys are on Twitter, you can find me at Matthew Mercer. I'm also on Facebook. You're welcome to say hi anytime. And once again, our show, Critical Role, it's Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, but episodes go up on the Geek and Sunday website the following Monday. So feel free to check out the show, watch us live, or after the fact. It's a bunch of us silly voice actors playing Dungeons and Dragons.
If you want to see kind of what I'm up to these days, go to joshuaseth.com. I'll be posting all the videos from TV I did in this country over the next few days. You've also got, I've done 4 live television specials around the world. There are clips on there. There's a TV voiceover page with a lot of that kind of historical voice stuff, as well as all of the current touring and the book info. If you're interested in my book, it's called Finding Focus in a Busy World. It's on Amazon. If you would like me to sign your Kindle, I will be happy to, but then you won't be able to read it anymore. And then the audiobook is on Audible and iTunes.
Yeah!
Lights on. Enjoy the rest of your time.